Now, barely hours after jihadists in Nigeria killed a dozen farmers in Kalla, Borno State, the militants launched another attack, this time killing 3 people and injuring several others. Locals say the jihadists arrived in trucks to attack neighbouring villages just 6 kilometres outside Maiduguri. Over the weekend, the militant group hacked to death around 12 farmers. Their bodies were found in their fields. The villages were raided and burnt to the ground. This comes barely a week after a Boko Haram faction executed a kidnapping on an aid worker.
14 people were killed, and still we were told that there's 2 dead bodies, but we checked everywhere, and all we saw was their bodies were butchered. Unfortunately, we couldn't get them, but we confirmed that they were killed.
I left my car and ran away while returning home. I met some group of civilian joint task force on their way to pick up the corpses, and then they offered me a lift with their vehicle to go and recover my car. They just asked me to leave the scene because I had nothing on my hand to defend myself with. So they went and carried the 2 corpses.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by CGTN's Phil Ahaza in Abuja. Phil, this is some extreme violence that we're hearing about, of course, and we know that the president has deployed a special security force to Kaduna State in the wake of these latest killings. What more can you tell us about this?
Oh, thank you, Lindy. It all started news of tensions in Kaduna State, that's in the northern part of Nigeria. Started on Friday with violence as well occurring, which, according to reports, had some form of religious and ethnic undertone in the state. And the state government also had to impose a 24-hour curfew in the state. But amidst that decision to impose 24-hour curfew by Sunday, over 55 people had lost their lives, and several cars and properties have been burnt down. So there had to be an intervention, of course, by the approval of the president, to deploy special forces to see how that they could reduce, or as much as possible bring to an end this kind of tension in the state. And to a large extent it actually restored calm. But in the period, especially on Sunday over the weekend, lots of residents in the metropolis, especially around the Kasuwa Magani area of Kaduna State, had to stay indoors. The Nigeria police also had to warn for travelers through Kaduna State to other neighbouring states to try to look for alternative routes. And also the Nigerian Youth Service Corps had to announce a postponement of its orientation exercise, which usually is about 2 to 3 weeks for the next batch of Corps members in the state indefinitely.
Well, Phil, it certainly does sound like a very frightening situation for communities there. And we know that this is not the first time that the government has sent troops, deploying them to Kaduna. But why is it so difficult to find a permanent solution to this unrest? You've already suggested that this is some deep religious and ethnic division and tension in Kaduna.
Well, you'd have to now recall that the state, Kaduna, has been in the scene of tensions way back, over 10 years. In fact, way back in 2001, you recall that Kaduna State, first of all, is largely divided, by Muslim and Christians. In the north, you have mostly Muslims, and then in the south, you have mostly Christians dominating that area of the state. In 2000, to be precise, between 2000 and 2001, over 1,000 people lost their lives. It all started from the fact that there was a Sharia law imposed in the state. And from that time till now, we've had different pockets of, tensions still along religious and ethnic lines. Several people have called for 2 states to be created from Kaduna State, so that we can have both parties or both religious groups, maintaining the north and the south. But some security analysts believe that apart from the physical presence of, security operatives, the religious leaders have to be charged and taxed with preaching messages of peace and coexistence amongst its followers to see a lasting solution to this crisis.
And of course, people must be at least, desperate for a lasting solution. You're talking about events that date back to 2000. On the other hand, we've got Boko Haram, that insurgency, of course, affecting violence in many parts of Nigeria. How are all these factors likely to play out in the upcoming elections?
Lindy, you know, we have just a few months to the elections. Campaigns have not officially started yet, but on social media, of course, it has started even way before now. You know, it's a lot of electorates will be seeing more proactive approaches, pragmatic approaches, especially by the current administration, who promised. You remember that in 2015, the President Buhari-led administration came on board with 3 cardinal points. One of the key points was tackling insecurity and also tackling corruption and restoring the economic outlook of the country, you know. But tackling insecurity was one of the major reasons why Nigerians voted the new administration to power. So if after 3 years, I mean, we're getting to another round of elections, of course, electors will be expecting more, especially pragmatic approach by the current administration. And then the other aspirants from other opposition parties also will have to be arguing their way, bringing strong points and reasons to how they can also tackle the insecurity in the country. So right now, yes, indeed, I mean, it will be the major trending factor for the elections come 2019.
Indeed. Insecurity, a persistent challenge there in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Phil Ihaza, joining us there live from Abuja.